Dear participants, it is my great honor to welcome you to the World Economic Forum's annual meeting in 2025. It's our 55th annual meeting. With us in Davos, there are more than 3,000 leaders from around the world and from across the public and private sector. We are meeting at one of the most uncertain geopolitical and geoeconomic moments in generations. Today, we are at an inflection point. 2025 will be a year of consequences. It will affect the course ahead, maybe even at a level we have seen in history like 1918, 1945, 1989. Because we are facing rapid advancements in technologies that are reshaping the economies, changing power dynamics that are remaking global relations, and new trade policies that are redesigning commerce. The long-standing international order that existed for the last 3 decades has receded. We are now between orders, and the next order has not yet taken shape. At this critical moment, we must ensure that the jungle of geopolitics do not grow back. Force cannot replace discourse. Non-cooperation cannot become the new normal. Because we just came out of the hottest year on record. The number and intensity of conflicts around the world have risen sharply. And the possibility of another global health crisis is ever looming. We can only address these challenges, and we can only unlock new economic opportunities together. Let's be clear, we will not agree on everything. But we need to find new and more effective ways to work together, even in the face of disagreement. It's the only way to make progress. This will be the focus of this important week, developing pathways for greater cooperation at a complex moment for the world. I'm confident we can do it together. Now it is my pleasure to introduce founder and chairman of the World Economic Forum, Professor Klaus Schwab. Thank you, and again, welcome.
Thank you, President Berger, and a very warm welcome to the annual meeting 2025 of the World Economic Forum. We are coming together at a moment when the world faces critical challenges. Our annual risk report 2025 identifies the foremost risks, such as armed conflicts, extreme weather events, misinformation and disinformation, increasing divisions within societies, within countries, cyber espionage, and many more. Simultaneously, we stand at the brink of what we call here the intelligent age, where artificial intelligence and other groundbreaking technologies and innovations will fundamentally transform economic systems, business models, and personal lives. The transition from the industrial to the intelligent age is occurring at an exponential pace, carrying unprecedented risks for humanity as we strive to prepare and to adapt to its complexities. Yet, it also offers significant opportunities for meeting current and future challenges and spark a new renaissance, one defined by advancements in technology, health, culture, and societal welfare. The foundation of such a renaissance lies in cooperation. This is the reason why we have chosen as a theme for this annual meeting 25, collaboration for the intelligent age. The scale and complexity of shaping the intelligent age requires the commitment and engagement of all stakeholders of global society. The forum community here in Davos and in this room, 3,000 decision makers from politics, business, civil society, academia, young professionals, and the media will bring different perspectives and diverse expertise to collectively engage into discussing solutions and new pathways for this intelligent age. As when we meet today, we also have to face an erosion of trust in our society. We all must work together to regain trust in order to progress nationally and internationally. This can only be achieved if we genuinely address the existential fears of so many. The fears of marginalized, the fears of those who are afraid of accelerating environmental degradation, and the fears of those who worry about being left out in the transition to the intelligent age. While we come together in Davos with our own important personal objectives, the true impact of this meeting stems from being united around the common mission of committed to improving the state of the world. That reason, that mission, has guided the Forum since its foundation 54 years ago, and is the ultimate purpose, particularly in a world which is in search of a new balance between global needs and national interests. The heart of my opening message is captured in a motto which I propose to guide our work in the coming days: constructive optimism. Throughout history, humanity has been driven by the aspiration to create and to care for a better future for ourselves and for the next generations. If this narrative of care for the next generation fails, we risk depending into self-serving and short-sighted behaviors that undermine collective progress and lead to profound societal and political shifts. To counter the erosion of hope and confidence in our future, we must go beyond reacting just to crisis. We must focus proactively, shaping the future in strategic, innovative, and constructive ways, despite the intense, short-term pressures and problems which we all feel. It is not cynicism or negativism which brings us forward, but practical steps to address the real-world challenges what we want to do here during this meeting. Since creating the World Economic Forum more than half a century ago, I have devoted my life to bring the world together in the hope of building a better future through open dialogue and action-oriented collaboration. Despite monumental challenges, serious crises, and inevitable setbacks and conflicts, the fact remains that a large majority of global population lives today in better condition than in 1971, even though our fragile planet now supports twice as many people. There is progress, and this fuels, hopefully, all our optimism. The precondition for this positive thinking is that we are guided by a clear mission and develop the resilience to withstand the increased uncertainty, complexity, and also adversity which characterizes a fragmented and polarizing world. The future does not just unfold. The future is shaped by us, and particularly shaped by us here in this room. By embracing constructive optimism and believing in our collective capacity and commitment to improve the state of the world, we can shape the intelligent age, as an era where every human being can realize its full potential. It's now my great pleasure to introduce the President of the Swiss Confederation and head of the department, the Federal Department of Finance, Madam Karin Keller-Sutter. Madam President, I want to use this opportunity also to thank you, to thank the Swiss federal government, but also the cantonal authorities and the community of Davos and Klosters to make it possible to turn this small mountain town into a real global village. And I want to include particularly in my thanks the population of Davos and Klosters for the great hospitality which we all feel is exercised during those days. Madam President, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Professor Schwab. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, perhaps it would send a shiver down your spine here in wintry Davos if I were to ask you for reasons to be cheerful in these times. But don't worry, you won't have to rack your brains. I'll give you a pretty good reason myself. The prosperity of nations and their populations is not simply left to chance. No, there are rules and patterns that can be recognized. These scientifically based findings earned Darren Acemoglu, Simon Johnson, and James Robinson the Nobel Prize in Economics last year. They showed that countries that establish community-oriented institutions to protect citizens' rights and promote fair competition are more likely to prosper in the long term. Where power and resources are concentrated in the hands of a small elite, however, widespread prosperity and social peace cannot flourish. In these turbulent times, insights such as these serve as a signpost, pointing the way forward and making a strong case for democratic and liberal values. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, signposts are particularly useful these days. The British magazine, The Economist, once aptly described our time as the era of predictable unpredictability. When certainties fade away, and you must always be prepared to surprises, it is important to create reliability wherever possible. Responsibility lies primarily with governments. They must ensure that the right conditions are in place at both the national and international level. Let me start, also in the spirit of the Nobel laureates I mentioned, with the general conditions that a country must primarily create on its own. After all, the international community also benefits from the domestic strength and thus the prosperity and stability of individual states. It can ultimately only be as strong as the sum of its members. Firstly, I would like to mention the institutional dimension. Only a state with stable institutions can create a sound environment where everyone can freely develop their potential. And a state must protect this freedom with rules. Within this secure framework, the economy and its businesses can generate prosperity. Secondly, competitiveness, both domestically and with the world. Without competition, there is no innovation, and without innovation, there is no progress. Think of climate change. It will be impossible to deal with it without technological progress. But in order for the best ideas to serve everyone, we need open production and good markets. And these markets only work if we ensure fair and transparent rules. The free trade in goods and services has reduced poverty in many parts of the world and made humanity as a whole more prosperous. It would be wrong to forget this. Of course, there is potential for improvement. Many people feel forgotten in the globalized world. This has a negative impact on the credibility of the national and international institutions. This is another, but not only pure economic reason why Switzerland will continue to advocate for open and regulated trade. The third point I would like to mention is fiscal strength. The importance of healthy public finances is immeasurable, especially in unstable times. They make a state strong and resilient to crisis. They enable it to invest not only in education and infrastructure, but also in security, in social security, of course, and also in national securities. A state is only credible and sovereign if it has sufficient resources and if it can guarantee its core task of providing security. And at the same time, a state's ability to act is also the best defense against populist tendencies. As I said at the beginning, the concentration of power in the resources in hands of just a small elite can be an obstacle to widespread prosperity and social peace. The same also applies when politicians squander the working population's money without any discernible benefit, or if they borrow and spend at the expense of future generation. I'm sure I'm not the only one in this room who is concerned about the very high and rising debt levels in many countries. They not only pose a risk for those countries, but also a threat to the stability of the international financial markets. As finance minister, I have been dealing with this topic intensively for some time now. No market is more globalized than the financial market, and financial market stability can therefore only be achieved multilaterally. When Credit Suisse failed, Switzerland was able to prevent the loss of confidence in a single bank from spiraling into an international financial crisis. Switzerland was able to act because it has stable institutions, is financially strong, and could guarantee large sums. But it was a close call, and I believe a stronger international regulatory framework is essential. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Switzerland is willing to do its homework and maintain its domestic strength and sovereignty. This also allows us to be involved at the international level and to stand up for global interest in a spirit of solidarity. For this solidarity to work, we need international agreements that are adhered to. With this in mind, Switzerland is committed to a just and lasting peace in Ukraine and to the country's long-term reconstruction. And with regard to the Middle East, Switzerland welcomes the ceasefire in Gaza and commenced the negotiation efforts of the United States, Egypt and Qatar. But it is not only the government that have to assume responsibility, business must do so too. For itself, for expertise building, training, for the environment, for the society, there is, to put it diplomatically, still room for improvement. For some years now, we have been able to observe how economic players increasingly call for state support, in short, for public money. The pandemic reinforced this tendency, and excessive wages also undermine trust in the private sector. As a result, due to such failures, the considerable social and ecological commitment of so many companies, from small businesses to global corporations, risks being forgotten. So let me ask you to help restore the positive image of the business community. In return, I can assure you of Switzerland's commitment to safeguarding reliable conditions at the national and international level. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, these aren't good times for people without an inner compass and for routes without signposts. And Davos in winter isn't a good place for shoes without a sturdy tread. So don't slip. And above all, let's make sure we don't slip up. Thank you.
It's now my deep pleasure and honor to introduce the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. Madam President, you have been a friend and a regular participant of our meetings since, I would say, quite some time. And I remember still very vividly when you joined us 5 years ago at the beginning of your first mandate. And nobody knew at that time what great challenges you would have to face. A pandemic, a war, but nevertheless, you were able to give Europe, in addition to managing those crises well, to give Europe new visions, a vision of a digital Europe, the Green Deal, to mention only a few. And now you are standing at the beginning of your second mandate. And again, Europe is faced with tremendous challenges. I would say the next 5 years will be crucial. Either we come out as a very reinforced Europe, which is still the second largest global economy. And if I look at population, I think we are
The global economy reaped the dividends. And here in Davos, world leaders discussed how global cooperation in technology could help the fight against poverty and disease. It was the promise of a more integrated and cooperative world. 25 years on, has this promise been fulfilled? Well, the world today is still nearly as connected as ever, but it has also started fracturing along new lines. On the one hand, since the year 2000, the volume of global trade has doubled, although trade within regional blocs is now expanding faster than trade between them. It is common that a chip is designed in the United States, built in Taiwan with European machines, packaged in Southeast Asia, and assembled in China. On the other hand, last year alone, global trade barriers have tripled in value. International trade institutions have often struggled to address the challenges posed by the rise of non-market economies that compete at a different set of rules. Innovation continues to flourish with advances in AI, quantum computing, and clean energy, poised to change our way of life and work. But technology controls have also quadrupled in recent decades. Our supply chain dependencies are at times weaponized, as shown by Russia's energy blackmail, or exposed as brittle when global shocks, such as the pandemic, emerge without warning. And the very interconnectors that bring us together, like undersea data cable, have become targets from the Baltic Sea to the Taiwan Strait. The cooperative world order we imagined 25 years ago has not turned into reality. Instead, we have entered a new era of harsh geostrategic competition. The world's major economies are vying for access to raw materials, new technologies, and global trade routes. From AI to clean tech, from quantum to space, from the Arctic to the South China Sea, the race is on. As this competition intensifies, we will likely continue to see frequent use of economic tools, such as sanctions, export controls, and tariffs, that are intended to safeguard economic and national security. But it is important that we balance the imperative to safeguard our security against our opportunity to innovate and enhance our prosperity. In this spirit, we will need to work together to avoid a global race to the bottom, because it is in no one's interest to break the bonds of the global economy. Rather, we need to modernize the rules to sustain our ability to produce mutual gain for our citizens. For us Europeans, the race begins at home. Europe has a unique social market economy. We have the second largest economy and the biggest trading sector in the world. We have longer life expectancy, higher social and environmental standards, and lower inequalities than all our global competitors. Europe is home to immense talent, along with the proven ability to attract ideas and investment from across the world. Our capacity to invent and create is underappreciated. Europe's global share of patent applications is on par with the US and China. But the world is changing. So must we. In the last 25 years, Europe has relied on the rising tide of global trade to drive its growth. It has relied on cheap energy from Russia, and Europe has too often outsourced its own security. But those days are gone. To sustain our growth in the next quarter of the century, Europe must shift gears. And this is why I asked Mario Draghi to deliver a report on European competitiveness. And on that basis, next week, the European Commission is presenting our roadmap, the competitiveness compass, which will drive our work for the next 5 years. Focus will be increase productivity by closing the innovation gap, a joint plan for decarbonization and competitiveness, overcome skills and labor shortages, and cut red tape. It's a strategy to make growth faster, cleaner, and more equitable by ensuring that all Europeans can benefit from technological change. And let me elaborate more on 3 foundations that will underpin this strategy. First, Europe needs a deep and liquid capital market. European household savings reach almost 1.4 trillion euros, compared with just over 800 billion in the United States. But European companies struggle to tap into that and raise the funding they need, because our domestic capital market is fragmented, and because that pushes money overseas. 300 billion euros of European family savings are invested abroad every year. That's a key issue holding back the growth of our tech startups and hindering our innovative clean tech sector. We do not lack capital. We lack an efficient capital market that turns savings into investments, particularly for early-stage technologies that have game-changing potential. And this is why we will create a European Savings and Investments Union with new European saving and investments products, new incentives for risk capital, and a new push to ensure the seamless flow of investment across our union. We will mobilize more capital to let Made in Europe innovation and risk-taking thrive. Second, we must make business much easier all across Europe. Too much of our top talent is leaving the European Union because it's easier to grow their companies elsewhere. And too many firms are holding back investment in Europe because of unnecessary red tape. We need to act on all levels, continental, national, and local. And we want to lead the way at the European level. For instance, we will launch a far-reaching simplification of our sustainable finance and due diligence rules. And we will make sure to create a conducive environment for our SMEs to scale up their capacity to build, to produce, and innovate in Europe. But I want to go even further than this. Today, the European single market still has too many national barriers. So sometimes companies are dealing with 27 different national legislations. We will offer instead to innovative companies to operate all across our European Union under one single set of rules. We call it the 28th regime. Corporate law, insolvency, labor law, taxation, one single and simple framework across our union. This will help bring down the most common barriers to scaling up all across Europe, because continental scale is our greatest asset in a world of giants. The third foundation is energy. Before the start of Putin's war, Europe got 45% of its gas supplies and 50% of its coal imports from Russia. Russia was also one of our largest oil suppliers. This energy appeared cheap, but it exposed us to blackmail. So when Putin's tanks rolled into Ukraine, Putin cut us off his gas supplies, and in return, we substantially reduced our dependency on Russian fossil fuels in record time. Our gas imports from Russia went down by roughly 75%. And now we import from Russia only 3% of our oil and no coal at all anymore. But freedom came at a price. Households and businesses saw sky-high energy costs, and bills for many are yet to come down. Now the competitiveness depends on getting back to low and stable energy prices. Clean energy is the midterm answer because it is cheap, it creates good jobs here in the European Union, and it strengthens our energy independence. Already today, Europe generates more electricity from wind and solar than from all fossil fuels combined. But we still have lots of work to do to feed through these benefits to companies and people. Not only must we continue to diversify our energy supplies and expand clean sources of generation from renewables, and in some countries also from nuclear, we will have to invest in next-generation clean energy technologies, like fusion, enhanced geothermal, and solid-state batteries. We must also mobilize more private capital to modernize our electricity grids and storage infrastructure. We must remove the remaining barriers to our energy union, and we must better connect our clean and low-carbon energy systems. All of this will be part of a new plan that we will present in February. It is time to complete our energy union so that clean power can run freely across our continent and bring prices down for all Europeans. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our plan. And the next few years will be vital to stay in the race of clean and disruptive technologies. Europe has everything it needs to make it happen. We have a private sector with a long-standing tradition of innovation. We have top-class workforce. We have a huge single market of 450 million consumers and a unique social infrastructure to protect people from the great risks of life. We have credible and independent institutions, transparent governance, and an unshakable commitment to the rule of law. It is thanks to all of this that in the last 5 years, Europe has weathered the fiercest storm in our economic history, and we overcame an unprecedented energy crisis. We did this together, and we can do it again. And we have the political will, because when Europe is united, it gets things done. Ladies and gentlemen, the coming years will be vital, well beyond Europe. All continents will have to speed up the transition towards net zero and deal with the growing burden of climate change. Its impact is impossible to ignore. Heat waves across Asia, floods from Brazil to Indonesia, from Africa to Europe, wildfires in Canada, Greece, and California, hurricanes in the US and the Caribbean. Climate change is still on top of the global agenda. From decarbonizing to nature-based solutions, from building a circular economy to developing nature credits, the Paris Agreement continues to be the best hope for all humanity. So Europe will stay the course and keep working with all nations that want to protect nature and stop global warming. Likewise, all continents will have to grasp the opportunities of AI and manage its risks. On challenges like these, we are not in a race against each other, but we are in a race against time. Even in a moment of harsh competition, we need to join forces. And Europe will seek cooperation, not only with our long-time like-minded friends, but with any country we share interests with. Our message to the world is simple. If there are mutual benefits in sight, we are ready to engage with you. If you want to upgrade your clean tech industries, if you want to upscale your digital infrastructure, Europe is open for business. And as great power competition intensifies, I see a growing appetite across the world to engage more closely with us. In the last 2 months, we concluded new partnerships with Switzerland, Mercosur, and Mexico. This means that 400 million Latin Americans will soon be engaged in a privileged partnership with 450 million Europeans. These deals were in the making for years, if not decades. So, why are they all happening today? It is not only because Europe is a large and attractive market, but because with Europe, what you see is what you get. We play by the rules. Our deals have no hidden strings attached. And while others are only interested in exporting and extracting, we want to see local industries flourish in our partner countries, because this is also in our interest. It is how we diversify our supply chains. And this is why Europe's offer is so attractive all across the world. From our neighbors in Africa who are working with us to develop local clean tech value chains and clean fuels, to the vast Asia-Pacific region. Hence, the first trip of my new Commission will be to India. Together with Prime Minister Modi, we want to upgrade the strategic partnership with the largest country and democracy in the world. I believe we should also strive for mutual benefits in our conversation with China. When China joined the WTO 25 years ago, the impact of rising Chinese exports were called the China shock. Today, some are talking about a second China shock because of state-sponsored overcapacity. Of course, we must respond to this. Defensive trade measures are being adopted across the world, including the Global South, as a response to Chinese market distortions. This is also why Europe has taken measures, for instance, on electric cars. At the same time, I have always stressed that we are ready to continue our discussions, and we will continue to de-risk our economy. Many believe, including in China, that it would be in China's long-term interest to manage more responsibly its economic imbalances. That's also our view. And I believe that we must engage constructively with China to find solutions in our mutual interest. 2025 marks 50 years of our union's diplomatic relations with China. I see it as an opportunity to engage and deepen our relationship with China, and where possible, even to expand our trade and investment ties. It is time to pursue a more balanced relationship with China in a spirit of fairness and reciprocity. This new engagement with countries across the world is not only an economic necessity, but it's a message to the world. It is Europe's response to rising global competition. We want more cooperation with all who are open for it. And this, of course, includes our closest partners. I think, of course, of the United States of America. No other economies in the world are as integrated as we are. European companies employ in the United States 3.5 million Americans. And another million American jobs depend directly on trade with Europe. Entire supply chains stretch on both sides of the Atlantic. For instance, an American airplane is built with control systems and carbon fibers from Europe. And American medicines are made with chemicals and laboratory tools that come from our side of the Atlantic. At the same time, Europe imports twice as many digital services from the United States as we do from the entire Asia-Pacific. Of all American assets abroad, 2/3 are in Europe. And the US provides over 50% of our LNG. The trade volume between us is 1.5 trillion euros, representing 30% of global trade. a lot is at stake for both sides. So, our first priority will be to engage early, discuss common interests, and be ready to negotiate. We will be pragmatic, but we will always stand by our principles. We will protect our interests and uphold our values, because that is the European way. The rules of engagement between global powers are changing. We should not take anything for granted. And while some in Europe may not like this new reality, we are ready to deal with it. Our values do not change. But to defend these values in a changing world, we must change the way we act. We must look for new opportunities wherever they arise. This is the moment to engage beyond blocks and taboos. And Europe is ready for change. Thank you very much, and long live Europe.
Thank you very much, Madam President. This was really a demonstration of what I called constructive optimism.
Yes, indeed.
I think you dealt with all the major issues, but there was one issue where I still would like to ask you a question. We may face reduced American engagement in Ukraine. What will be the consequence for Europe, and how do you see Europe's role in the ongoing war in Ukraine?
Yeah, thank you very much, Klaus. I think we should never forget where it all started. Ukraine is a sovereign country, and Ukraine determined its own future by asking for accession to the European Union. That's where it all started. And the response was an invasion by its neighbor, Russia. Secondly, I think we should also never forget in the European Union that this is not only about the security of Ukraine, but it's also about the European security. And the third point is, no one wants more peace than the people of Ukraine. But what they want is a just and a lasting peace. What they don't want is a frozen conflict that erupts again a little time later. I have witnessed over the last 3 years how Ukraine is working hard for the accession to the European Union. It's amazing to see the speed in which they work on heavy, difficult reforms while fighting a war. So for us, because of all this, it is very clear that we will continue to support Ukraine. We have supported Ukraine by now by almost 130 billion euros, but we will continue to support Ukraine without any question. Whatever happens next, for us it's important that Ukraine stays an independent country, and that it is Ukraine that decides on its own territory. And therefore, Klaus, the sentence is still valid. We stand by Ukraine for as long as it takes.
Thank you. That was a very clear message, and of course we will welcome President Zelensky during this meeting. And let me just say, Madam President, I think you provided us with a clear vision and perspective for Europe, even in a very difficult time. But we can look to the future of Europe with, I would repeat, with constructive and pragmatic optimism. Thank you for what you're doing, and we wish you, on behalf of all the audience, we wish you all the best for the mandate for the next 5 years to come. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it's a great honor to welcome His Excellency Ding Xuexiang, member of the Standing Committee of the Political Bureau of the Chinese Communist Party and Vice Premier of the State Council of the People's Republic of China, for the first time to the World Economic Forum's annual meeting. Your presence here today underscores the importance of China's global engagement and the critical role China plays in shaping our shared future at such an important and critical moment. Your Excellency, China has emerged over the last decades as a key player in addressing global challenges, and its contributions to global economic growth and development are undeniable. China's commitment to sustainable development and its ambitious goals for a green economy are impressive. Your multiple initiatives have the potential to improve global trade and infrastructure, connect continents further, and foster economic growth, especially for the Global South. Vice Premier Ding, you have been a pivotal figure in China's political landscape, known for your strategic vision and dedication to advancing China's modernization. With a career spanning several decades, you have played a crucial role in shaping policies that drive economic reform, technological innovations, and sustainable development. Your leadership in various capacities, including as Director of the CCP General Office, has been instrumental in fostering international cooperation and addressing global challenges. We are honored to have you with us and to share your insights on building a more, I should say, interconnected and resilient world. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency Vice Premier Ding to the stage.
尊敬的司法部主席，尊敬的各位嘉宾、女士们、先生们、朋友们，很高兴来到美丽的达沃斯，出席世界经济论坛年会。世界经济论坛是讨论全球经济问题的重要平台，也是促进国际交流合作的先锋力量。达沃斯小镇的吸引力，既在于拥有美丽的自然景色，更在于各种思想在这里碰撞、相互启迪、共同进步。8年前，正是在这里，中国国家主席习近平发表重要演讲，围绕“世界怎么了，我们怎么办”这样一个时代之问，发出了支持经济全球化、维护和践行多边主义、共创美好世界的最强音，被司法部主席称为为我们带来了阳光。习近平主席深刻地指出，让世界经济的大海退回到一个一个孤立的小湖泊、小河流是不可能的。搞保护主义，如同把自己关进黑屋子，看似躲过了风吹雨打，但也隔绝了阳光和空气。当时我有幸在现场聆听，所以我也向司法部主席报告，我这是第2次参加论坛，不是第1次，至今仍然记忆犹新。此后，习主席又2次在世界经济论坛上就完善全球治理、构建人类命运共同体给出明确的答案，为国际社会提供了重要的指引。当前世界100年变局加快演进，关税战、贸易战阴云密布，经济全球化动力和阻力焦灼，多边主义和单边主义竭力博弈，全球治理体系正经历深刻调整，人类社会再次来到关键的十字路口，渴望阳光穿云破雾，指明未来前行的方向。我们要重温习近平主席的重要演讲，坚定信念，团结协作，在风高浪急中携手同行，推动构建人类命运共同体，为世界注入更多的确定性、稳定性。 建设一个共同发展的公正世界。在这里，我愿谈几点看法。第一，共同推动普惠包容的经济全球化。经济全球化是社会生产力发展的客观要求和科技进步的必然结果，是浩浩荡荡的历史潮流。这些年，经济全球化虽然遭遇逆风和回头浪，但仍然展现出巨大的韧性、活力。根据世贸组织数据，1995年以来，全球贸易总额增长年均增长5.8%，2023年达到了30.4万亿元，30.4万亿美元。1995年至2022年，中低收入国家出口占全球的份额从16%上升为32%。同时，发达国家并没有因此吃亏受损，经济增速和人民福祉也得到了有效的提升。经济全球化不是你输我赢的零和博弈，而是互利共赢的普惠进程。当然，经济全球化也会带来一些利益分配上的矛盾分歧，这些问题只能在推进全球化的进程中加以解决。搞保护主义没有出路，打贸易战没有赢家。我们要充分利用一切机遇，引领好经济全球化的走向，以普惠纾发展之困，以包容聚合作之力，推动经济全球化进入更具有活力、更加包容、更可持续的新阶段。相信我们有足够的智慧和能力，通过沟通和协商，找到互利合作的双赢多赢之道，把经济全球化的蛋糕不仅做得更大，而且也要分得更好。第二，共同维护和践行真正的多边主义。多边主义是维护世界和平、促进人类发展的人间正道，是解决世界面临困难挑战的金钥匙。国际上的事要由大家共同商量着办，世界前途命运要由各国共同掌握。这是国际社会人心所向。我们要高举多边主义的旗帜，坚持共商共建共享的全球治理观，确保各国在国际事务上权利平等、机会平等、规则平等。今年是联合国成立80周年，我们要以此为契机，重申对联合国宪章宗旨和原则的承诺，坚定维护以联合国为核心的国际体系和以国际法为基础的国际秩序，推动全球治理朝着更加公正合理的方向发展，坚定维护以世界贸易组织为核心的多边贸易机制，维护国际贸易规则制定的主渠道地位，营造开放、包容、非歧视的国际经济合作环境。第三，共同塑造世界经济发展新动能、新优势。这次年会以人工智能时代的合作为主题，具有重要的现实意义。当今世界新一轮科技革命和产业变革深入发展，人工智能、量子科技、生物技术等前沿技术集中涌现，数字化、绿色化、智能化的进程不断加快。我们要抓住和用好机遇，推动数字时代互联互通，加强科技创新国际合作，助力各国壮大新兴产业和未来产业，加快培育和发展新质生产力。近年来，全球南北差距更加突出，技术鸿沟、数字鸿沟、智能鸿沟仍在扩大。我们要坚持科技成果造福全人类的理念，帮助发展中国家建设人工智能、智能交通、智慧能源等新型基础设施。 加快加强关键民生领域信息技术推广应用，让更多的国家搭上数字经济的快车道。第四，共同应对全球性重大挑战。当前国际形势变乱交织，气候变化、粮食安全、能源安全等领域的问题层出不穷，唯有同舟共济、合力应对，才能共度难关，共创未来。习近平主席提出全球发展倡议、全球安全倡议、全球文明倡议，为世界提供了重要公共产品。我们要携手推进三大全球倡议，让发展的动力源泉源源不断，让和平的薪火代代相传，让文明的光芒熠熠生辉，凝聚起战胜困难和挑战的强大力量。绿色转型是全球发展的大方向，解决气候变化的问题的根本之策。国际社会要一道努力，以公平、有序、公正的方式加速能源转型，维护新能源产业链稳定，推广绿色产品和技术，应对气候变化要一以贯之，增强环境、气候和经贸领域政策的一致性，避免因为经贸摩擦迟滞绿色转型的进程，避免设置绿色壁垒，干扰正常的经贸合作。安全和发展相辅相成，相互促进。当前一些国际热点冲突仍在延宕，严重冲击世界和平稳定。我们要坚持以合作谋安全、促和平，以对话解纷争、化分歧，共同走对话而不对抗、结伴而不结盟的新型安全之路。支持联合国及其安理会发挥更大的作用，支持一切有利于和平解决危机的努力。女士们、先生们、朋友们，中国是世界经济发展的重要引擎。在达沃斯讨论世界经济问题的时候，人们总会把目光投向中国。借这个机会，我想就中国经济几个大的趋势性特征向大家做一个简要的介绍。第一个大的趋势是高质量发展扎实推进，这是中国经济的一个突出亮点。刚刚过去的一年，中国经济运行总体平稳，稳中有进，国内生产总值增长5%，增速居世界主要经济体前列。这一年，中国经济面临不少的困难和挑战，我们加强逆周期调节，特别是在3季度，加力推出一揽子增量调节政策，有效地提振楼市、股市市场预期和社会信心，促进经济回暖向好。中国经济遇到的困难，既有外部大环境的影响，也有自身经济结构调整带来的阵痛。我们坚持不懈推动高质量发展，新产业、新业态、新模式竞相涌现，对克服经济困难发挥了重要作用。去年，我也多次到中国的各地去调查研究，看到经济新旧动能转换成效十分明显，新兴产业和未来产业蓬勃发展，新质生产力正在加快形成。我所调研的企业中，有民营企业，也有外资企业，有传统的制造业，也有数字产业。大家对未来都充满了信心。今年，中国将进一步加大宏观政策的调控力度，实施更加积极的财政政策和适度宽松的货币政策，大力提振消费，提高投资效益，推动科技创新和产业创新融合发展，促进资本市场健康稳定发展， 和房地产市场止跌回稳，有效防范化解地方债务风险，推动经济实现质的有效提升和量的合理增长。中国经济稳定健康发展，也将为世界经济发展持续注入强大动力。第二个大的趋势是绿色低碳转型全面加快，这是中国经济的鲜明底色。中国正以实际行动，争取在2030年前实现碳达峰，2060年前实现碳中和。2012年以来，中国单位国内生产总值能耗、碳排放强度分别累计下降超过26%、35%。目前，可再生能源发电量在总发电量中占比超过35%。中国已经建成了全球最大、最完整的新能源产业链，为全球提供70%的光伏组件和60%的风电设备。这些优质产能为世界绿色发展和应对气候变化提供了重要助力。中国循环经济发展的势头迅猛。给大家举一个例子，有一家中国的企业在新材料技术赋能下，可以用8个塑料瓶抽出的涤纶丝生产1件 T 恤衫，用28个塑料瓶生产1件冲锋衣，每年可消耗300多亿个塑料瓶，真正实现了生态效益和经济效益的双赢。中国走绿色转型之路是长远之策，绝非权宜之计。不论国际形势如何变化，中国积极应对气候变化的决心、行动不会改变，将持之以恒，协同推进降碳、减污、扩绿增长，加快经济社会发展全面绿色转型，遵循联合国气候变化公约及其巴黎协定的目标和原则，为全球应对气候变化做出更大的贡献。第三个大的趋势是改革开放不断向更高水平迈进，这是中国经济的活力资源。中国大踏步地赶上时代，靠的是改革开放。开创中国式现代化建设的新局面，仍然要靠改革开放。去年的7月，中国共产党召开20届3中全会，对进一步全面深化改革、推进中国式现代化作出系统部署，提出了300多项重要改革举措，并且明确要在2029年新中国成立80周年时完成这些改革任务。我们将建设高水平社会主义市场经济体制，创造更加公平、更有活力的市场环境，推动实现资源配置效率最优化、效益最大化。开放是中国式现代化的鲜明标识。从外商投资准入看，2013年我们设立上海自贸试验区，发布第一份外资准入负面清单，清单条目当时有190条，目前仅剩27条。去年，中国制造业领域的外资准入限制措施已经全面清零，还对跨境服务贸易实行了负面清单管理，在电信、互联网、教育、文化、医疗等重要领域正在有序扩大开放。从对外贸易看，我们不追求贸易顺差，愿意进口更多国外有竞争力的 优质产品和服务，促进贸易平衡发展。中国的关税总水平已经降到7.3%，处于全球比较低的水平。我们给予所有同中国建交的最不发达国家100%税目产品零关税待遇。我们主动地扩大进口，连续7年举办中国国际进口博览会，进口规模多年位居世界第2。从营商环境看，跨国公司很关注中国知识产权保护、平等参与政府采购、跨境数据流动以及要素获取、资责许可和标准制定。这些方面，我们都在不断完善相关制度和政策。这些问题对内资企业和外资企业都很重要。我们的态度很明确，就是一视同仁，平等对待。以政府采购为例，根据相关法规，在中国境内生产的产品，不论供应商是内资企业还是外资企业，都依法保护其平等参与政府采购活动的权利。我知道在现实生活中，不论是外资企业还是内资企业，有的时候都可能会遇到一些玻璃门、弹簧门个案问题。我们真诚地愿意同大家一起解决这些问题。中国开放的大门不会关闭，只会越开越大，营商环境只会越来越好。我们真诚地欢迎更多的外国企业到中国投资兴业，在分享中国机遇中实现更好的发展。女士们、先生们、朋友们，中国的新春佳节就要到来，一元复始，万象更新。让我们从达沃斯重新出发，坚守多边主义正道，促进开放包容发展，共同开创更加美好的明天。最后，预祝本次年会取得圆满成功，谢谢大家。
Thank you, Vice Premier Ding, for having given us a very deep and comprehensive insight into Chinese policies and the status of the China economy. Let me follow up with 1 or 2 questions. First, we are now in a kind of reshaping of the global order. And my question would be, how does China actually view its role in shaping the global order among the rising tensions which we have? And what would be actually the consequences, Vice Premier, of a world falling apart into 2 different systems, short-term and long-term? And what should be done to avoid such a scenario?
司法部主席所提的这个问题，反映了国际社会对中国的关切、作用的关切。也反映了国际社会对当前形势的担忧，担忧这个国际秩序会分裂，会变成两个体系。我想，关于中国的在国际秩序中的角色作用问题，想起中国一句话，叫做“听其言，观其行”。大家可以听一听 中国的领导人、中国的人民说了些什么，看一看中国人做了些什么。我想听一听、看一看以后，作为一个正直的人，一定会得出一个结论：中国是一个负责任的大国，中国是国际秩序的坚定的维护者和建设者。首先，大家可以想一想，近几年习主席就国际秩序问题发表了一系列的观点，比如说构建人类命运共同体，比如说全球3大倡议：发展倡议、安全倡议、文明倡议。这些观点、这些倡议，为弥合分歧、减少对抗，起到了重要的引领作用。其次，大家还可以看一看，中国始终是和平发展的坚定践行者。中国在处理国际事务的过程中，始终坚持对话而不对抗，结伴而不结盟。要说和平安全方面的这个现状，我可以说中国是记录最好的世界上的大国。第三，中国始终是坚定的支持真正的多边主义的，坚定的维护联合国为核心的国际体制，坚定的维护以国际法为基础的国际秩序。中国人言必行，行必果，言行一致，说到做到。这是我回答的第一个问题。第二，司法部主席还说，万一如果国际体系分裂会怎么样？怎么办？我说这个问题啊，这个想象真是不敢想象。如果分裂，人类从此就很难再合作应对我们共同的挑战。弄得不好，会重新陷入对抗，甚至现代战争。这种情况是任何一个国家都不能置身事外的，不能独善其身的。所以我又想到，刚才我也说过，习主席讲啊，地球上的每一个国家就像坐在同一条大船上，命运与共，需要同船同舟共渡。所以为了弥合纷争，不出现这样的恐怖的结果、可怕的结果，我们必须要团结一致去构建人类命运共同体，坚决反对冷战思维、零和博弈，共同构建更加公正合理的国际秩序。同时呢，在这个过程中，我以为大国的作用极其重要。大国应该担当起示范者、引领者的作用。大国要有大国的样子。中国14亿人民是十分渴望、希望世界和平、安宁的，希望世界团结合作共同发展的。我们也正在为此而不懈地努力，我们也希望全世界各国人民和我们一起努力。我就回答这些。
Thank you, Vice Premier Ding. In the context of the question I just asked also, we know that the intelligent age is characterized by fierce competition in the new technologies such as artificial intelligence and quantum computing. Now, those technologies significantly transform industries and societies, but they also enhance national power. Now, what will China do to avoid that those technologies become a divisive factor and contribute really to the progress positively of all humanity?
谢谢，也是一个非常好的问题。我完全赞成司法部主席的观点。人工智能、量子、等等一些新兴的技术、前沿的技术，确实，它给我们带来的可能不是渐进的发展，而是带来革命性的变革。关于中国科技，中国这些年经济发展、科技进步，举世瞩目成就。但是我们自己清楚，这些成就的得来，得益于开放合作。所以对科技的开放合作，它的重大意义，我们是有切身体会的。所以长期以来我们也是秉持科学无国界、惠及全人类这样一些理念，不断地推动国际合作、国际的科技合作，在创新方面合作，在科技成果的分享方面合作。到目前，中国已经和160多个国家和地区建立了科技合作的这样一些各种关系，特别是加强和全球南方国家的合作，分享成果，分享应用新技术的应用，目的就是希望弥合高科技的鸿沟，避免科技创新仅仅成为富国富人的游戏。在这方面，我们也取得了很好的成果。关于人工智能的问题，我也完全赞成司法部主席的观点。人工智能等新技术做得好，它毫无疑问是促进发展的强大动力；做得不好，可能成为严重的风险来源。中国发展人工智能技术，我想说一说。首先，我们是高度的强调安全和发展要同时考虑，就是处理好发展和安全的关系，稳中求进，把握好每个环节发展的度。举一个不恰当的例子，就像上高速公路开汽车，如果我们的刹车系统还没有把握在手上，我们不可能放心的去踩油门。所以，把握好发展和安全的关系极其重要。中国发展人工智能，第二个目的非常明确，是为了推动我们经济的智能化转型，为了我们14亿中国人民能够过上更好的日子，更现代化的日子。因为我们是这个目的，所以我们不会去盲目的跟风， 我们也不会去无节制地参与到竞争当中去。所以我认为中国政府有能力管理好人工智能，我们有强有力的制度体系、检测体系，还有强大的伦理委员会，我们一定能够把人工智能技术管理好、使用好，造福人民。这个人工智能的全球治理是一个难题。如果任凭各国这么无序的竞争下去，这个灰犀牛就在前头，怎么办？历史啊，我们要去看一看历史上，回顾历史。其实，国际社会、人类社会管控核安全、管控生物安全，都是有经验的。在这个过程中，联合国发挥了很好的作用，当然也包括联合国相关的一些机构发挥了很好的作用。我认为这些经验是值得汲取的。我们愿意在联合国的这样一个中心框架下，我们积极的参与，各个国家都积极的参与，国际上各类相关的国际组织积极的参与，共同讨论、研究、制定强有力的规则，确保人工智能技术真正的它是成为蕴藏着许多珍宝的阿里巴巴山洞，而不是将被打开的潘多拉魔盒。我就说这些，谢谢。
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our session, and please join me again thanking Vice Premier Deng for his insights into China's policies.
Thank you.